While Germany's industrial giants stumble through layoffs and France burns with strikes, one country is quietly rewriting the rules of European power. Poland's economy is growing 3 times faster than the EU average. But this isn't about cheap labor or handouts. The real weapon is something the old powers forgot how to build. The media still calls Germany the engine of Europe. That engine has stalled. Germany recorded GDP growth of just 0.8% in 2025. France barely managed 1%. Both economies are suffocating under bureaucracy, aging infrastructure, and political paralysis. Strikes shut down French cities for weeks. German factories close while unions fight over pension disputes that have no winners. Poland, 3.6% growth, 4th highest in the entire EU. Here's what the numbers really mean. Since joining the EU in 2004, Poland's economy has expanded at an average of 3.8% per year, every single year. Through the financial crisis of 2008, through the pandemic, through energy shocks, while Germany and France argued about regulations, Poland built. The old narrative says Poland is just a satellite of the German economy, a cheap factory floor for Western Europe's ideas. That story is dead. Poland's GDP reached $1.1 trillion in 2026. Per capita income, $55,340. That's 81% of the EU average, adjusted for cost of living. The closest Poland has ever been, and the gap is closing fast. Germany's so-called strength was always fragile. Over-reliance on Russian energy, bloated welfare systems, a manufacturing base that refused to modernize. France, 35-hour workweeks and retirement at 62. These aren't progressive policies, they're suicide pacts. Poland's advantage isn't just speed, it's agility. The country doesn't waste years debating. It builds highways, it attracts factories, it signs contracts while Brussels is still forming committees. But here's the part the Western press won't say out loud. Poland didn't just catch up to the old powers. In infrastructure quality, business climate, and investor confidence, Poland is leaving them behind. New highways cut across the country. Factories rise in months, not years. Foreign firms are abandoning stagnant markets in the West and moving operations east, not because Poland is cheaper anymore, because Poland works. This wasn't about catching up to the West. This was about building a better, stronger system from scratch. When the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, Poland faced a choice: copy the slow, bureaucratic model of Western Europe, or design something new, something that actually functioned. Poland chose the hard path: deep, structural reforms, the kind that required guts. Independent courts were established, not as political tools, but as real institutions that enforced contracts and protected investors. An anti-monopoly agency was created to ensure competition stayed fair. Banking regulators were given teeth, not suggestions, teeth. Fortune magazine quoted economist Marcin Pionkowski saying, "Poland built a strong institutional framework for business that Western investors could trust. Trust is the currency of capital." And Poland earned it. While Western Europe debated and delayed, Poland moved. The government didn't just write laws, it enforced them. Contracts meant something. Property rights were sacred. Corruption, while not eliminated, was driven underground. The result? Poland became the safest place in Central Europe to invest serious money. The World Bank says Poland's NATO accession in 1999 and EU accession in 2004 firmly placed Poland in the European and transatlantic community. But accession alone doesn't explain the gap. Other countries joined the EU and stayed poor. Poland joined and became a fortress, because Poland didn't just open its economy, it weaponized institutional credibility. Here's what that actually means. When a German firm looks at expanding production, it compares Poland to Slovakia, to Romania, to Hungary. All have cheaper labor. But Poland has something those countries lack: predictability, rule of law, courts that enforce contracts the same way this year as they did 5 years ago. Banks that don't collapse when the political winds shift. Stability isn't boring. Stability is the foundation of empires. And Poland built its fortress on rock, not sand. The institutions created in the 90s and early 2000s became Poland's competitive moat. Western firms didn't just invest in Poland because of EU funds. They invested because Poland was the only place in the region where a 20-year business plan wasn't a joke. Germany and France had stability once, but they let it rot. Bureaucracy replaced dynamism. Regulation replaced innovation. Poland studied their mistakes and built something better. Many countries received EU funds. Only Poland turned them into an economic superweapon. Between 2004 and 2024, Poland received around 160 billion euros in net EU structural and cohesion funds, the largest recipient in the entire Union, not just by a little, by a landslide. The Polish Economic Institute ran the numbers. They estimate Poland's economy is 42% larger than it would be without EU membership. Best case scenario, 61% larger. Worst case, 22%. The Polish government says 58% of Poland's growth since 2004 comes directly from EU integration. Let that settle in. 58%, but here's the part that drives Brussels bureaucrats insane. Poland didn't just take the money. Poland deployed it with precision. EU funds weren't dumped into pensions or welfare, they were poured into infrastructure, highways, railways, ports, airports, energy grids. The kind of assets that multiply economic output for decades. The Polish Economic Institute says the real driver wasn't just the cash, it was access to the single market. Trade barriers disappeared. Polish exporters flooded Western Europe with goods. Foreign direct investment poured in. Companies like Volkswagen, LG, and Samsung built massive production facilities in Poland because suddenly Poland wasn't just a cheap labor market, it was the gateway to 500 million EU consumers. Poland's exports exploded. GDP per capita is 42% higher than it would be outside the EU, according to government data. That's not a subsidy effect, that's a structural transformation. Germany and France look at Poland and see a recipient nation. What they don't see is the strategy. Poland used EU membership like a private equity firm uses leverage to amplify returns. Every euro of EU funding was matched by Polish reforms that made the next euro more productive. Infrastructure attracted factories. Factories created jobs. Jobs created a middle class. The middle class demanded better services. Better services attracted more investment. It's a flywheel, and it's accelerating. While Germany debates whether to repair a bridge or fund another pension increase, Poland is building the 21st century. Highways that didn't exist in 2004 now connect every major Polish city to Western Europe in under 12 hours. Ports on the Baltic are expanding to handle container traffic that used to flow through Hamburg. Poland didn't steal $1 trillion from the EU. Poland outplayed the system by being the only country that understood what the system was for. Growth. Not redistribution, growth. And now the infrastructure gap has flipped. Poland's roads are newer, its logistics networks are faster, its energy grid is more reliable. Western Europe is driving on crumbling highways built in the 1970s. Poland is driving on highways built last year. The old guard is arguing about yesterday's industries. Poland is building tomorrow's. The OECD warned in 2026 that Polish companies face a challenge. Moving up the value chain, low-cost manufacturing is great, but the workforce is aging, the labor pool is shrinking. If Poland stays stuck making car parts for German brands, the story ends. Poland didn't wait for permission to solve that problem. The State Department says Poland's government launched reforms in 2024 focused on the SME sector and innovation. Small and medium enterprises, the backbone of every advanced economy, are now the priority. Not just support, serious strategic investment. Because Poland's leadership understands what Germany forgot. You can't rest on legacy industries. Warsaw, Krakow, Wrocław. These aren't just historic cities anymore. They're tech hubs, startups, R&D centers. Poland's gaming industry is world-class. CD Projekt Red, the studio behind The Witcher and Cyberpunk, is Polish. Multinational corporations are opening innovation labs in Poland, not just factories. Why? Because Poland has what the West lost: hunger, drive. A generation of engineers and entrepreneurs who watched their parents build a country from rubble and now want to own the future. And the funding is arriving. KPMG reported that Poland's new government unlocked up to 137 billion euros in frozen EU funds through institutional reforms. 137 billion. That's not maintenance money, that's moonshot money. This capital is being deployed into advanced manufacturing, green energy, and digital infrastructure. Poland isn't just catching up. Poland is leaping. While Germany debates whether electric vehicles are the future, Poland is building the battery factories. While France protests nuclear energy, Poland is signing deals to build reactors. The Association of Corporate Treasurers says Poland's large domestic market, skilled labor, low transport costs, and EU membership make it attractive to investors. Translation. Global firms are moving operations to Poland not because it's cheap, but because it's the best place in Europe to do business. Here's where it gets interesting. The old Western model was vertical, a few corporations at the top controlling everything. Poland is building horizontal. Thousands of SMEs competing, innovating, iterating. No single point of failure, no dependency on legacy giants. It's resilient, it's fast, and it's eating the old system alive. The next industrial revolution won't be led by Germany. It'll be led by the country that understood the game changed. This isn't an economic miracle. It is an economic masterpiece executed with Polish precision. Let's review the scoreboard. Poland's economy grew from $66 billion in 1990 to $1.1 trillion in 2026. Per capita GDP rose from $6,730 to $55,340. The economy has grown an average of 3.8% per year since 2004. 81% of the EU average GDP per capita adjusted for cost of living. The highest in Polish history. These aren't projections, these are facts. Poland built institutions that work. It mastered EU integration better than any member state. It deployed 160 billion euros of EU funds into infrastructure that will compound returns for 50 years. And now it's pivoting into high-tech, advanced manufacturing and innovation with 137 billion more euros unlocked and ready. Germany? Stagnant. France? Paralyzed. The UK? Outside the Union entirely, still arguing about what Brexit even means. Poland is no longer emerging. Poland has emerged. Chris Skinner's blog called Poland's Transformation, Deep Structural Reforms and Strategic Integration into Western Markets, that undersells it. This was a 35-year sprint to rewrite the rules of European power, and Poland won. The West still talks about Poland like it's a newcomer, a junior partner. That illusion is dying. Poland's economy is now larger than Sweden's, larger than Belgium's, and it's accelerating while they slow down. The contrast is brutal. Germany's industrial base is in decline. France's social model is unsustainable. The UK is adrift. Meanwhile, Poland is building, exporting, innovating, and growing. The old powers had their century. This one belongs to Warsaw. And here's the final uncomfortable truth for Western Europe. Poland's success exposes their failure. Every percentage point of Polish growth is a reminder that bureaucracy kills economies. That institutional strength matters more than legacy prestige. That agility beats size. The Vistula eagle is rising, and the old lions are too slow to stop it. If you want to see how nations rise while empires fade, subscribe to Economics Edge, because this story is just beginning.